four main styles of parenting: authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and indifferent. Personal experience and learning through trial and error is the typical means by which parents learn to raise their own children. The point of parenting, after all, is to nurture and equip children to be the best version of themselves. Welcome back to another Warrior Academy podcast. I really hope you're enjoying these episodes. If you are, please click subscribe and share this with your friends, with other parents, so they can see what we're up to and hopefully gain, some interesting insights and ideas around developing your child's character. Today I'm talking about parenting styles. And the first thing I just want to put as a foundation here is that parenting doesn't come with a manual, right? We're not born with a manual, and I feel like for a lot of parents, we're kind of winging it and figuring out what to do, as different challenges come up with our children. And all of our children are so unique. What works for one parent might not work for other parents, but there are some fundamental principles when it comes to parenting styles, which I want to talk about. And so what I'd like to do in today's episode is just talk about the different parenting styles so that you can then identify which parenting style you've got, maybe look at the positives and negatives of that style and see if it's helping or not helping your child's character development. So let's get started. So first of all, what are parenting styles? So it doesn't come with a manual, right? And like I said before in the earlier podcast, personal experience and learning through trial and error is the typical means by which parents learn to raise their own children. Obviously, we think back to our own personal experiences as a child growing up. Then we figure out what actually works nowadays because we're in an ever-changing environment, right? Social media wasn't around so much when I was growing up and likely when you weren't growing up. So the whole playing field has changed. The point of parenting, after all, is to nurture and equip children to be the best version of themselves. I feel as though it's this balance of protection and empowerment, which I'll go into later. But ultimately, we need to allow children to grow into young adults who can venture out into the world with the character and abilities to take care of themselves and actually enjoy life. With conflicting parenting advice and no sure right way to parent, being a parent is one of the hardest jobs in the world. What then can we learn about parenting styles and how they impact children's development? Well, first of all, what is a parenting style? A parenting style is simply that. It's the way you choose to parent your children, from how you communicate, the values you keep, and the values you pass on. Your expectations for your own behavior and that of your kids. It's the time you invest into your level of responsiveness and the responsibilities that you decide to give your children and the age at which you decide to give it. So essentially, parenting style is the typical way you behave with your children and how you encourage and expect them to behave themselves. Through numerous studies out there, researchers have basically identified four main styles of parenting: authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and indifferent. And they are based upon two dimensions: demandingness and responsiveness. So let's first look at authoritarian parenting. An authoritarian parent or authoritarian parents take authority over their child and leave little to no room for negotiation. You also get authoritarian leadership, which is often seen in the workplace or in any environment as adults, right? An authoritarian parent tends to believe that children should do as they're told no matter what. They don't believe they need to explain their rules or offer any opportunity for the child to voice their opinions. The main focus for authoritarian parents is obedience, and punishments rather than discipline are used to coerce a child into basically being obedient. So when it comes down to authoritarian parenting, the child's feelings and thoughts are hardly ever accounted for. And the children rarely, if ever, are involved in discussions about how to overcome problems and challenges. There's basically a high demand with little responsiveness. Now, if you look at the workplace, if you look at something like the military, it's a highly authoritarian environment because it's so risky and so dangerous. And so if your child's doing a very dangerous activity, I think it's important to have authoritarian parenting or an authoritarian practice in that aspect. But they're not in a dangerous situation all their lives, in every single moment of their upbringing. So whilst on the surface, the children of authoritarian parents may seem well-behaved and amenable, and all is not usually well underneath the perfect behavior. Children of authoritarian parents often develop self-esteem problems because their individuality and voice is unheard and unvalued. They're not taught to share their opinion. And that can often lead to a hostile or aggressive nature as the child develops. Now, the next up is authoritative parenting. Now, authoritative parenting or authoritative parents also ensure they have authority within the family unit, but not at the expense of the child's feelings and well-being. It's not so much my way or the highway. It's a little bit different to that. So authoritative parents wish to instill good values and behavior in their children, but they do so in a collaborative manner. They have demands on their children, but they also invest a lot of time and effort into creating a positive relationship with their children, essentially providing a more balanced approach to the previous style. So authoritative parents ask their children's thoughts and opinions on the issues they face. So, a child's feelings are taken into account when consequences are put in place. Reasons are explained for rules, and negotiations are even considered. So it's a far more relaxed approach to other styles. Positive discipline is at the forefront of handling poor decisions, and behavior of the children, such as praise and reward systems, is often used, right? So I feel in this situation, children are valued enough to be thoughtfully considered and taught to make better choices through positive reinforcement and fair consequences and outcomes. Children of authoritative parents have been shown to be the most likely to become responsible adults who feel comfortable expressing their point of view. They tend to be happy, they tend to be successful, and they tend to be capable of making good decisions. The next style of parenting is permissive parenting. Permissive parents tend to take on the role of a friend rather than a parent. Permissive parents or permissive parenting is highly responsive, but it actually places little to no demands or expectations on the children. Often they're treated like a peer or like an adult. The parents tend to be very lenient. They set the odd rule or no rules at all, and they hardly ever enforce them. There are consequences for bad choices or poor behavior, but they're very few and far between. And so permissive parents typically believe that their children do best with as little interference from them as possible. So with permissive parenting, children are encouraged to talk through problems, and the parents are extremely forgiving, understanding, and validating. However, personal responsibility on the part of the child is absent. Any consequences are frequently taken back if the child protests enough. And children of permissive parents usually have a hard time respecting authority figures or appreciating rules, and therefore their behavior can be more problematic. Often when it comes to disruptive behavior in young people or students who do the breakthrough area assessment and get lower scores for conduct, let's say, often that can become, that's a part of the permissive parenting that's going on at home. So children can have low levels of self-esteem, and they often report a great deal of sadness if they're going through permissive parenting, believe it or not, and they often suffer more with health problems. If the parents don't provide boundaries for healthy eating, for self-care, all this sort of stuff, health issues start to arise. The next style of parenting is indifferent parenting. So an indifferent parenting style is uninvolved and disinterested. Parents rarely ask their children how they are and what they've been doing or what they've been spending time, who they've been spending time with, and that sort of stuff. Indifferent parents are usually too focused on their own problems to be present for their children. There are a few expectations of the children and little responsiveness from the parents. So children of indifferent parents tend to take care of most of their own physical and emotional needs. They can't depend on their parents to nurture them or necessarily provide them with constant attention, support, or even at the extreme levels, guidance and care. And that's often so crucial for healthy child development. And so while this style of parenting is neglectful, the parents are usually not equipped to properly care for their children. And so mental health problems, substance abuse, and lack of knowledge about good parenting and healthy relationships are, they're typically common amongst indifferent parents. Children of parents with an indifferent style of parenting are likely to struggle in many areas of their lives. They have this low self-esteem. They often perform badly at school. They suffer with frequent feelings of unhappiness, and they have difficulty managing their own behavior. And so the importance of parenting styles, it's really clear, I think, that the way in which we interact with our children has this life-changing consequence for them, right? Parenting is one of the hardest jobs in the world. There's no doubt about that. But it's also one of the most important and rewarding jobs in the world. I think that we're hardwired to get more joy out of having children than anything else in life. I think that's how human beings have evolved. In order for us to carry on, we find so much joy in it, but it's also incredibly difficult. I think the style we adopt when we communicate and care for our kids has a huge impact on their self-esteem, their sense of self and their ability to enjoy and thrive in their own personal lives. We love our children and we want what's best for them. Of course, we all do. And so understanding the different styles of parenting and their influence on child development is extremely valuable. Now, if you look at all the different stages that I've spoken about, they're actually all valuable at different times. Even indifferent parenting is kind of useful when a child goes through adolescence and they need to be more responsible and more independent to a degree. All of these styles can be taken to the extreme, right? And then anything to the extreme, it can have a negative impact. There are elements that become important at different times, I feel. But I always think that we can learn better ways to cooperate and guide our children into healthy adulthood. I think by investing the right amount of time, structure, teaching, and support, we can give our children the best possible chance to feel happy, to achieve their goals, and we can provide them with the nurture they need to become capable, responsible adults themselves. That is all I've got to say on parenting styles today. I hope you found that interesting, maybe insightful. In the comments below, why don't you write down what you believe your parenting style is, and maybe write down the style you think your partner has. Tag them in this. I don't want to cause the arguments, but it could be interesting to share what you think each other have as a parenting style. Typically I find that there's a balance, right? You might have one parent that's more authoritative or more authoritarian, and another parent who's far more relaxed and more indifferent. So, speak to your partner about this. It could be an interesting topic, and we can all move forward to help develop our parenting styles as we evolve as parents. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another one, and I will see you all next time. Take care. I really hope you enjoyed today's Warrior Academy podcast episode. We're going to keep creating these episodes because I know that so many parents find them useful or get insights or get ideas about how to develop their child's character. But it all comes down to the 3 C's: confidence, conduct, and concentration. So if you want to get a deep insight into the levels of confidence your child has, the level of concentration they have, or the level of conduct they have, so that you can actually put a score next to it and then work towards increasing those scores like we do in the Warrior Academy, then I'd love to invite you to fill in the Breakthrough Area Assessment. It takes about 5 minutes of your time, and you will get a personalized PDF report on your child's 3 C's. To access the Breakthrough Area Assessment and find out your child's 3 C's score, all you need to do is go to www.breakthrougharea.com.